think about NBA jump shots, not all are created the same. You have picture perfect, smooth jump shots that make you just appreciate the sport of basketball and the crazy amount of time they put into perfecting their craft. However, there are players in the league who are the exact opposite. You've had players such as Michael Kidd-Gilchrist who looked like he was trying to hit a Black Ops 2 trick shot every time he shot. Then you had Joakim Noah, who used two hands to push the ball into the basket. Guy was launching the ball into the air like he was a Clash Royale mortar. And then there's the all-time great Dick Barnett, who's out here playing hopscotch, doing a Mario jump every time he shot. I mean, to be fair to Barnett, he was out there playing in the black and white era. I mean, he ain't never have Coach Ryan from I Love Basketball TV to teach him how to shoot. I think players back then were just trying any shit they could think of when shooting, though MKG and Joakim Noah have no excuses. I mean, watching those two shoot the ball like that growing up made me think I had a shot at making the NBA, because come on dude, it was like they were trying to create ugliest possible jumper they could think of, just to prove a point that they could get to the league while looking as goofy as possible. I mean, they must have been the most stubborn guys ever, because they had all the resources on their disposal to improve their jumper. Because not only did it look ugly, it also hampered their ceilings as players, because they were non-factors as shooters and they still didn't change their jumpers. That's why I have a lot of respect for a player like Lonzo Ball, because this guy throughout college and in his Los Angeles years had one of the ugliest jump shots that the modern NBA had the displeasure of seeing. Dude was Michael Kidd-Gilchrist maxing with his Black Ops 2 trick shot as jumper and was somehow able to get away with that in college until he joined the NBA and he was out here building whole neighborhoods with bricks he shot. He would eventually get traded to New Orleans, and that's when he realized maybe his jumper could use a bit of improvement. Here's a clip of him talking about this improvement.
I was a shooter my whole life, hitting threes my whole life. I come in the league and now I can't shoot no more. And for me, it was just get in the lab, bro. Get in the lab and figure it out. And I owe a lot of credit to my coach in New Orleans, who was my shooting coach. He turned my career around for sure.
And this led to one of the greatest 0 to 100 improvement in NBA history, where he went from being one of the worst shooters in the league to becoming one of the best shooters in the NBA, shooting 37% in threes in his 2 years in New Orleans, then shooting 42% in his first year with Chicago. And remember, he was doing this while he was on crazy high volume too. Then there's Kyle Anderson, who was playing on 0.5 speed throughout his entire career, including his jumper. Then this season, he joins the Warriors and now he shoots like a normal human. These stories are a great example of a player fixing his ugly jumper to look normal and seeing improvement. Though, don't let that fool you, because there's players who have had ugly jumpers but they didn't need to fix it because somehow, someway, their shit was money. Even though every time they shot and went in, it was as if they defied the laws of physics. And we're going to be talking about those unique players. First player we're going to talk about is Al Horford, who in his first 7 years in the NBA never shot threes. Then somehow became one of the best shooting big men in the NBA, all with this jump shot. This abomination where, for no reason, his guide hand is right there like he's about to contest his own shot. And with this jumper, he somehow became a consistent 37% shooter in threes, and in his best year shooting 44.6%, which was second in the league, which just shows you anything is really possible in the NBA. That though didn't deter other people from disrespecting his jump shot, because we have this video right here where he says he's an elite shooter in an interview, which the numbers do support that, though a reporter would straight up laugh at his face, to which Horford would press him. See the video right here.
Your best shooting season this season. Shot's kind of gone away a little bit here in the playoffs. What's different? What's going on with the shot now?
Not much difference really. I'm still getting good looks, and I'll continue to shoot them. Even throughout the season, I went through ups and downs. That's just a part of it when you're an elite shooter. You're gonna get them up. You're laughing. You don't think I'm an elite shooter?
I do.
My numbers don't support it?
They do. The best man.
Now, this was just a random reporter in a random interview. He could just ignore him. Besides, what does a random reporter know about shooting? But then another instance would emerge where he wouldn't be able to ignore it as easily, because in this video right here, Horford is shooting a free throw with his good old usual way, which prompts this response from Curry, where he is bewildered with his jumper. Or I guess just a shooting form, because this is not really a jumper, it's a free throw, trying to figure out how it's possible to make it with that. And this, I would imagine, this would sting him a bit more because that's the greatest shooter right there who doesn't have the most conventional shot either, just critiquing your shit on live TV. Though I imagine it's all in good fun and he's just more impressed with how he became a great shooter using that jumper rather than trying to roast him. The reason why his jumper is like that though is, according to him, when he was growing up in the Dominican Republic, that's the jumper he came up with and it was never coached. Then when he got to America, a coach tried to fix his guide hand, though his hand would always revert back to that spot as an instinct, which, hey man, this man is out here proving you don't need picture perfect mechanics with your jumper. Then there's the next player who is also one of the top shooters in the league with an absolutely hideous jump shot, and that's none other than Tyrese Haliburton, who has had a bit of a shaky season this year, though has been a great shooter most of his career, averaging 40% shooting threes. His jumper is a different archetype of monstrous jump shot, with him shooting that shit from the hip, and he just pushes the basketball with a weird hitch, and the craziest part is he uses his jumper to pull from deep, because some of his shots he would launch that shit from Curry range with that jumper and make it. When I first witnessed this shot, I immediately thought his jumper looks like when kids shoot it with their chest because they're not strong enough to shoot with an arch above their head, so they have to push the ball with all they got with their chest. After researching into his jumper, this was actually pretty on point, because the reason why he shoots like that is because as a kid, he wasn't able to shoot on a 10-foot rim, so he would use that jump shot to get it off, which leads into a very interesting event where he would get blocked by a 3-year-old because his coach, who was this kid's dad, tried to make Tyrese change his jumper. What's the craziest thing is though, Tyrese was 14 when this happened. That's right, 14! Which, how does that happen? How the fuck do you get blocked by a 3-year-old? This 3-year-old got to have been an unit, because what other toddler is doing this? I mean bro, this toddler got him crying and sent him home. That's actually crazy. That kid has the craziest NBA lore. That though wasn't enough for Tyrese to switch his shit, so he would stick with his jumper, which, hey, he made it work, though his shot is very notorious to the point you have referees poking fun at his jumper. Now though, we're going with retro throwback player. Some might say he's one of the best shooters ever and the best during his era, and we're talking about Reggie Miller, who, when you think about shooters back in his era, you definitely think about him. He was the guy, though what surprised me was even his jumper was, you could say, egregious. He came from the Al Horford school of sabotaging your own jumper, because he was contesting his own jumper by bringing his shooting hand over to his guide hand, where it seemed as if he was high-fiving himself after every shot with his follow-through. Yeah, you could argue his thumb flick with his guide hand or squared stance weren't gorgeous and not what most shooters use, though the self-contest after a shot is what grinds my gears. However, just like other jump shots we talked about in this video, there's a story behind his jump shot, and his sister, who was also a hooper, would explain that whenever they played each other growing up in basketball, she would always get in his face when he shot, and he would develop that clap, and whenever coaches would try to coach that out of his jumper, his dad would tell the coaches to leave his jumper alone, which definitely turned out to be the right decision, as he would take the clap to the highest level, out shooting his competition.
How would you explain Reggie's jump shot, the genesis of his jump shot throughout the year? Because that was signature.
A lot of it was because I was always in his face, so it would almost click. And I don't know how many countless coaches tried to change his shot, but the way he shot, and it was almost looked like he was pushing it, but he wasn't. It was really, really unique.
Now I want to talk about what I think is the goofiest jump shot we talked about in this video, and it's Shawn Marion's Yeetus 9000. Now the reason why I call this jump shot the Yeetus 9000 is because whenever I watch this man shoot, I just think about the iconic yeet sound effect, and when you think about it that way, his jumper makes so much more sense. He's just yeeting the ball every time he shoots, because there's no other explanation for why he chose to shoot like this. Why is he releasing the ball within his pelvis? He's Tyrese Haliburton maxing, even though he played before Haliburton. And then why does he flick the ball like this? I mean, come on dude, why is it this zesty? Am I the only one thinking this? Why is this guy playing LGBTQ ball every time he shoots? This is a jumper that Flight would equip, not a regular NBA player. It makes sense that he was nicknamed the Matrix, because boy, he must have been in the Matrix every time he shot, because it was like that part where he's offered those pills, and those pills were either shoot like a normal functioning citizen or shoot like you need to unload the biggest shit anyone has ever seen in his bathroom. Now, I'm not trying to hate on the Matrix because, you know, I've probably been the most harsh on him out of anybody in the video, but trust me, I'm not a Shawn Marion hater. Because shout out Shawn Marion, that rear jumper did work, you know, when he wasn't a knockdown shooter, but he could convert threes at a decent rate, particularly when he played with Phoenix. And you know, his versatility can't be questioned because he was one of the few defenders who could guard 1 through 5 and could create on offense, was a great dunker. I mean, what's there not to like besides his jumper? The thing that trips me though is how much his jumper being talked about bothered him. Because you know, his jumper is a big topic of discussion whenever you talked about him. And he hated how people focused on that and ignored other aspects to his game. Watch these videos right here.
My shot ain't that low. I broke my wrist and fingers, everything. They used to pay more attention to my shot than when I was doing on the floor.
Now, I understand where he's coming from because I can imagine it can get annoying if you're an all-star player and what you're known for is that rear jumper. But hey man, can you be surprised when your jump shot is this? But anyways, respect to him for making that jumper work. Now I'm going to talk about a player who was a bit more underrated than the shooters we talked about in this video, and it's Kevin Martin, who was a walking bucket averaging 20 points with ease back in his prime. Now his jumper is a bit of a unique archetype compared to the jumpers we talked about in this video, because when you think about it, the crazy jumpers had a bit of resemblance to each other. We had Al Horford, who was Reggie Miller maxing with the self-sabotage with the guide hand. Then you had Shawn Marion, Tyrese Haliburton maxing with his kid type of release within his waist. But Kevin Martin's jumper is a bit unique compared to those because the unique part about his jumper is he shoots with his arms already extended all the way out. I don't know how he gets arch in his shot, but he does. And his shit's money too. He was a 39% 3-point shooter in his career, but it's just he was shooting in a way that made you think his face was a basketball repellent. Then you had other things that also made his jumper weird. How he leaned when he shot, then his follow through was weird. And those things added to one jump shot resulted in this quite a unique jumper that worked. What I realized after working on this video was that mechanics are overrated. Now obviously you do need certain things for it to work, but in general, the things that are important are it needs to be a quick jumper so you don't get contested or blocked, and you need to be comfortable, right? You need to find the jumper that works for you and just repeat it, building muscle memory. Now, I'm curious about which one of these jump shots was your guys' favorite. Write it down in the comments, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video.